Welcome back to Travel Like an Oching. For this installment, I'm going to do a brief review on the Carnival main dining. I'll be covering a period of about 14 days, or the length of my back-to-back. Of note, I didn't go to main dining every single night, and I did get a good sampling of main dining, and I would say that the vast majority of the time I did partake. So I do think this is going to be a pretty fair evaluation across the 14 days. This is, of course, totally subjective. The best judge of how your experience will be is if you actually take what you can from my evaluation and experience dining venues on your own. So let's not delay anymore. Let's get on with this. More after this. The structure of my review is going to be rather simple, and I want to try to keep it simple. I'm going to first talk about the things that I liked, then talk about the things that I didn't like, and to come up with some general recommendations. My experiences were my experiences during the time I was on the boat. It's going to change for any individual based on any chunk of time. So please don't take this as an endorsement or a non-recommendation. This happened to me, and I want you to take this with a grain of salt, pun intended. Overall, my experience on Carnival was excellent. I really enjoyed the entertainment. There was plenty to do. I had fun. Eating is a huge part of cruising, especially when you have multiple sea days. So it's very important that that aspect is thoroughly looked at. I did also take a look at room service, which is available 24 hours. I do want to emphasize that there were multiple venues to eat in. Main dining is the one I'm looking at. I also did experience my dining once for breakfast because I just wanted to make sure I had the end-to-end experience in main dining. All in all, I have a pretty total look at how the food was, and I'm here to report it for you. The following are going to be some comments on my very positive reaction to what I experienced in main dining. An overall positive comment is for the Carnival app. That is your starting point. The app worked very well, very positive on not only your dining experiences, but all of your activities throughout the cruise. Thinking back, if I had a preconceived notion, it was that the app was not going to be good. And that usually was the case with other apps on different cruises. The app worked very well. It worked particularly well when planning your meals. The app informed me I had an hour and a half wait. Instead of me just complaining, I simply looked around the ship for other activities to do and just simply went down to one of the bars, in this case, the Cuban bar, sat down and listened to some wonderful Cuban music until my dinner time arrived. It actually notified me on my phone my placement for dinner was ready. I was traveling as a solo sailor, so I was also evaluating how they treated groups versus solo sailing. And I have some very particular activities that I like to see happen as a solo sailor. Some people think it's over the top, but I think at a minimum these things should be done. To go along with that, I found that the check-in process was rather smooth. Once it said my table was ready, I simply brought my app down to the maitre d', who then looked on her computer, and it tells you not only that your table is ready, but what number table. At that point, I was escorted with a smile to my table, and I was seated promptly. The next very positive experience, and I really got to emphasize this because they busted their butts, was the attentiveness of the wait staff. With the size of the main dining room, main dining area, it was pretty big. They really had pretty good team of people hustling and bustling to make sure everything was being taken care of for the individuals having their meals. No complaints there. Plenty of wait staff. They were smiling. They were efficient. Very pleased with. They knew my name. And I know that's not a big thing, but it's important, especially when you figure they are feeding literally hundreds of people a night. For them to focus in on one's name is very satisfying, so I appreciated that. Not to be outdone, I have to comment about the beverage service during main dining. It was superb. Shortly after I sat down, I waited no more than 60 seconds, literally under a minute. There was someone there ready to take a drink order for me. I found that very relaxing. I also had and people who know me and know my past restaurant activities, I always want water on the table. And I will guarantee you that I never had to ask for water on my table because it automatically occurred as soon as I sat down. They did a wonderful job, and they were a great compliment to the wait staff who were doing all the other activities. They were on top of their job. The moment I finished an appetizer, my main dish, my dessert, they were right there to clear my plate. They didn't just swoop in and take my plate. They courteously asked me if I was done, if I was ready for the next course. So again, I appreciate that. And with all the activity, now mind you, throughout the night, there are activities that they were putting on. They put on their show, so they had to be involved for that. Teams were pulled away to sing happy birthday or happy anniversary. And on top of that, they made sure myself as an individual cruiser and all the other families around me had that touch point where they made sure that we were taken care of. All right, now let's talk about appetizers. Now this is where I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty of some of what I saw and what I experienced. Overall, the appetizers were delicious. Not only that, they were hot, they were flavorful, they were efficiently delivered very soon after I ordered them. I absolutely had no issues with any of the soups that came out. For other apps that I hadn't tried before, like the roasted duck rolls, they also came out quickly, were very appetizing, flavorful, and I really enjoyed them. Big thumbs up to the staff bringing me my appetizers and getting them out where they were hot and delicious, and I made quick work of them. I have to say as well that the portion sizes for everything that I had was superb. Overall, everything from appetizers, main course, and dessert looked very appetizing, and that is a big plus because I've been in situations where the food comes out and it looks like it was just slopped on the plate, and half of the dining experience is being able to eat with your eyes, so to speak, and really look forward to what's coming out on your plate. Here are some examples of some of the appetizers I had. Here are the roasted duck rolls. The next night I tried the stuffed mushrooms, which was very good sauce, nice presentation, very enjoyable. I had some fried green tomatoes. Great job on your fried green tomatoes. Oh, and one of my favorite appetizers was the lasagna bolognese. Oh, it was so good. The ragu was delish. The cheese was melty, and it was seasoned perfectly. I strongly recommend you have that as either an appetizer, as I got it, or as your main dish, because as you can see, it definitely could fill you up. It didn't kill my appetite because I was ready to go after this, but a very delicious, delectable treat. Another appetizer which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I didn't think I would, but it turned out to be delicious, was the coffee glazed roast duck. Oh, it was so good. The skin was crispy. It was seasoned perfectly. Now, I have to emphasize that because I was shying away from this appetizer because it's coffee glazed. I don't drink coffee. I know a lot of people laugh at that because they're like, you don't drink coffee? I don't drink coffee. So the thought of having something cooked in it that what I thought would be a very coffee intensive flavor was not there. It was quite good. I enjoyed it, and if you haven't ordered it before your next cruise, make sure you do. Okay, I was waxing poetic on the great things that I experienced during my dining experience in my dining. It's now time for the negative. And I do have to say there were several, to the point where it forced me to give an overall rating of about a 5 or a 6. Overall, the service was very slow. Also, I want to note here that it was even worse when I went to the main dining for breakfast. That was probably the slowest service I had ever experienced on any cruise ship that I've been on. That's really not a good thing, especially if it's your first meal of the day. I almost felt that there was a bait and switch vibe going on when it came to the main dining room. Over 80% of the time when I got my main dish, it was tasteless, i.e. not enough seasoning. And I'm not talking about very fancy seasoning, I'm talking about basic salt and pepper. The waitstaff was very stingy on the bread. Not only did they only give you one roll, mind you, you could ask for others, but I just felt with them running around, I didn't want to have to keep bugging them for bread. But anyway, not only did they only give you one piece of bread, but it was a tiny sliver of bread. And people went through, at least I went through that so quickly that I felt almost guilty having to ask for them to continually bring me bread. I did work out a hack, like, night 3 of immediately just asking for 2 pieces at once. But even with doing that, once they gave me the 2 pieces of bread, they disappeared. It was not offered again. And I definitely wasn't going to beg them for bread after bread after bread. Although I praise the waitstaff overall for their attitude and their efficiency of sitting me down, I'm going to share with you my pet peeve on service in general when it comes to a solo sailor. When you're a solo passenger and you go to sit down and eat dinner, you don't want to make it obvious to the people around you that you're alone. I know it seems like a silly, trivial thing, but if I'm sitting down, there are other people around me and they're looking at my table and they see across from me a full place setting and nobody's there, it really gives the image that I was either stood up, for whatever reason the person I'm with decided not to dine with me. That just makes me feel very uncomfortable. In the past, even on Carnival ships, it just didn't happen consistently on this one. What would happen is, as a solo sailor sat down, the waitstaff immediately removed the extra place setting, so one felt comfortable sitting there alone and enjoying their dinner. This did not happen for me, and it just made me feel weird half the time. On 2 occasions that did happen. They were very efficient. They moved it away, and I actually thanked them because they had the foresight to do that, and it made me feel comfortable. And I didn't do it towards the end of the cruise. I did it in the beginning and in the middle, and it was hit or miss if the staff was thinking about making those changes and pulling off that extra place setting. The other thing is, and I know they were doing their job, so I don't want anyone to get in trouble over this, but I felt the people who were going around dinner asking to take your picture was a bit much, especially when they saw that I was a solo sailor. I really don't want pictures of myself sitting alone having dinner. That was a bit too far. However, one night, one of the beverage people convinced me to purchase the little shot. She offered to take a picture of me enjoying my toast, and that was kind of fun. I do understand the photographer's job is to get these moments. But once I say no, please don't keep asking at different times. One very sad experience for me was that my desserts were iffy at best. And what I mean by that is some desserts worked well and were delicious, and some desserts were just horrible. And I have to call out the molten chocolate lava cake. It looked pretty good and it had promise. The looks were so deceiving. Now, the way a chocolate lava cake's supposed to be is you have an outer crust and it's a baked cake, and in the middle of that cake is supposed to be molten fudge. So as you break the surface of the cake, you go into this fudge, this hot fudge, and you just mix it with your ice cream and you eat it, so forth and so on. When I received my molten chocolate lava cake, when I dipped my spoon in, it was just like a granular, chocolate grainy nastiness that I just was not turned on about. Footage here for you to take a look at that. So I'm not sure if the batch of lava cakes were bad that night, because I noticed other folks who also ordered the same thing were experiencing basically the same mess that I was experiencing. I was very disappointed in that dessert. Now you contrast that with the night that I had a baked Alaska, or the many other desserts I had, which were wonderful. I really enjoyed those desserts. The native experience, we'll chalk it up to hit or miss. They just really whiffed when it came to some of the desserts that they provided. Another dessert that was quite good was the cheese plate. I enjoyed that. All right, now that I talked about the positive things that I experienced and went over some of the negative things I experienced, I want to talk a little bit here about some of the alternate dining locations that were available. There was specialty dining, there were the buffets, and there were also to get room service. And I did try each of those options to make sure that I got myself a good meal. Carnival Panorama even had a deli-like location, which was really handy because you could find yourself running up there to get a hoagie or a Reuben on rye or one of the deli sandwiches that you use to hot dogs and things like that. I do want to talk a little bit about one alternative dining location that I tried. And I tried it at two different times. I tried it when it was a paid option. I tried it when it was a free option. The night that I tried it as a paid option, I have to tell you, I wasn't too impressed. The meats were dry. It looked very appetizing, so there's like a recurring theme here. The food looks quite good when it comes out. At least this time, the meal was hot when it came out, and I felt that it came out in a timely manner. However, it suffered the same fate that most of the meals in the main dining room suffered, in the sense that I don't know why they don't season these things, especially barbecue. But when I'm having barbecue chicken, I want it to taste like barbecue and not like ketchup, and not even the good ketchup. I mean, ketchup, like sugar-free ketchup. And that's basically what a lot of this tasted like. And if they were trying to, make it so that I would save myself from having salt, I ended up having to put a ton of salt on the food just to make it taste like anything. Not to mention the sides were dried up and they weren't good. The corn was good. I mean, but how can you mess up corn on the cob, right? The mac and cheese wasn't cheesy. It was overcooked, like it was under a heat lamp too long. So I made sure to get their maximum platter. Of note, I wanted to point out that I've been cruising for a long time, and I know there was a point in the 70s and 80s that they had this concept of a midnight buffet, and it was a continual cycle of eating. I also know that cruise lines stopped those midnight buffets because they saw them as cost prohibitive, and I thought that was the end of it. And they had things like 24-hour pizza and room service to fill that void. I do have to say that on this Carnival Panorama cruise, they did have a midnight buffet. It actually went from like 11 p.m., the time that the deli closed, to about 12:30 a.m. So it's not like your traditional midnight buffet that went to 2 or 3 in the morning. However, it is that last opportunity if you were hungry, especially after a nightclub or an activity, a show, or just hanging out on the boat and just walking around. If you got the grumbles, you got to go down and enjoy this buffet. I thought it was a godsend. It had some great food on it. I often picked up a salad or some more heartier fare during that time, especially on the nights where I wasn't too pleased with my meal for main dining. I already talked about the deli. The deli being open from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. The midnight buffet going from 11 p.m. to about 12:30 a.m. The pizza ending at about 1 a.m. You pretty much had a good solid chunk of opportunities to have food. I have no complaints about the availability of food. I do have complaints about, as we've gone through, the quality of food in main dining. I was just not overly impressed by it. The presentation was great, but the execution had a lot to be desired. The last food option I do want to talk about is utilizing room service. It started with punching it up on your app. They gave you a time window. One thing I do want to note is if you are ordering room service on the app, I made this mistake one time. I ordered from room service 3 times. The first time I forgot to include a beverage, so my food came up and I had nothing to drink, and that was no one's fault but my own. They even have on the app, it gives you a little pop-up that says, do you want to order a beverage with your meal? I just blazed through it the first time because I just really wanted to get the experience of ordering. The first time I ordered buffalo wings, but there was no area for me to ask for extra dipping sauce, and I found that frustrating. Also, when I got the wings, I took a look at them. They were all flats, but I would like to have some drumlets as well. The next time I ordered room service, instead of the buffalo wings, I ordered the barbecue wings. When those came, again, I got all flats. So I don't know if they're making a concerted effort to make sure that all orders for wings go out as flats, but if they are, they really need to change that policy because that was disappointing. Overall, my experience in main dining was fairly disappointing. The highlights were the service, the friendliness of people, and all my soups came out perfect. Now, if they can get the soups right, why couldn't they get the main dishes right? My main gripes with the main dishes were tasteless. They often came out not cold, but they weren't at temperature. Anything that was meat-based I felt a little overcooked, so I ordered the braised ribs, and it was a little tough to eat. I have to be honest. It looked good, but the meat was very stringy and was tough to eat. In contrast to when I ordered the grilled lamb chops, those were so tender. They were fall off the bone. They were cooked properly, unlike the braised rib. Not sure, but the quality was just not there for me. I want to also, again, shout out to all of the wait staff and service staff that was involved in that entire chain. From the maitre d' to drink taker, waiter, assistant, bussers, everyone in that entire value chain of the meal were superb. I can't ask for better people to have served me, and they always serve with a smile. It's a wash, right? Great service and smiles, but they didn't really take care of me in some instances where I felt that they should. Not to mention that during breakfast, the wait times were so long, and it wasn't just for me. I sat around and looked at other families who were trying to get their breakfasts, and they were waiting just as long. Again, that could have been a timing issue. Maybe I picked a day there were backups in the kitchen. I don't know. All I do know is that I didn't enjoy my wait during those periods of time. I definitely appreciate the alternative eateries that are on board, from the deli to the pizza joint to the midnight buffet and all the other eating locations on the Lido deck. They all get an applause from me, and thank you. The food was delicious right from day one to my last night on day 14. I was always able to find something that I enjoyed, not just that I ate, but I really enjoyed. I had stuff at Guy's Burger. I had stuff at the Blue Iguana. The service I got for all the drinks that I received while I was on board, they were excellent. So with that, I want to thank you again for joining me as I talk to you about my experience in main dining. I certainly hope that you book your next cruise soon and that you experience it for yourself. There are always other alternatives. The whole point to doing this review is, what do you get with the default payment that you made? You know, why do I have to go to a specialty restaurant to be able to get the food that I want and flavored it the way I want it? I think you shouldn't have to. Although I didn't really extensively cover specialty dining, that is my review of main dining on the Carnival Panorama. I look forward to sailing on her again in the future, and I will certainly go back and try their main dining option again. However, I do love specialty dining, especially the steakhouse. Thank you for joining me, and until next time. Sorry, I can't make the point I was trying to make.